Okay, so the main point of tonight's meeting is to deal with the Blue Card Concussion Initiative. There's been a lot of talk about this since the initiative was first decided upon back in August of 2016. So the way tonight is going to work is I'm going to run you through New Zealand Rugby's general overview of the initiative. And then Dr. Sean Bartley is going to get up and present to us, because we are the ones that instigate these cards on a Saturday. And he's going to take you through hopefully all the medical questions. Then at the end of the presentation I'll jump up and wrap up, and what we'll probably do is have a probably 10 to 15 minute quick fire question and answer. So if you've got a logistical or administrative question, fire that at me. If you've got a medical question, you'll fire that at Dr. Bartley. All clear? Alright, my bit will take about 10 minutes and then we get the good stuff up. So the Blue Card Concussion Initiative was born out of a successful trial that was conducted by Northland Rugby back in 2014. And it was approved by the New Zealand Rugby Board and is now available for implementation across all provinces in New Zealand. It is in fact mandatory at all levels of adult rugby in all Mitre 10 Cup provinces. Hence the reason why I've been banging on to everybody for the last couple of weeks to get you in this room. There is probably a very high probability that we will not run this presentation again. So for those who aren't here, we have to come up with a plan B to get them upskilled so that I can issue them with a blue card. Some heartland provinces are going to be bringing this in, but not a lot. There were a number of protocols that we as a union had to make sure we followed before we could get approval from New Zealand Rugby. And I'm pleased to say that since August of last year, we've managed to tick all the boxes that New Zealand Rugby have imposed on us, so that we are now able to introduce the process starting on the 18th of March. This presentation is just the introductory presentation which our RDOs have been presenting to all of the stakeholders at Rugby Smart. And we're pleased to have our Eastern Bay Rugby representative, Mark Seymour, who's with us. So he's down the front here, and I'm sure if you've got any questions that you could potentially be asking in terms of coaches, then Mark's probably here to answer some of those. The purpose of the process that's being implemented is to keep our players safe, and also to reinforce concussion management that already exists. Northland put this trial together in 2014 as a result of a very serious accident. A player was concussed during a game, failed to follow the graduated return to play protocols, rushed back to play far too soon, suffered another head knock and subsequently died. So this process has been put in place to force our players to follow the graduated return to play protocol. Okay, so how's it going to work? Well, you currently carry a yellow and a red card in your pocket. We all know the yellow one's a sin bin, a red card's a send-off. At the conclusion of this training, once you're all deemed competent, and I'm sure they will, you'll be given another card, and it will be a blue one. You will be able to issue a blue card to any player you deem to have suffered a form of head injury or a concussion. Only a referee who's registered and has undergone the training will be issued with a blue card, and only a referee with the blue card can stick one in the air. As a result of the blue card being issued, the player must leave the field, cannot return to play in that match. And that initiates a sequence of off-field processes that the player must follow. Now the good thing about the process, and it's been modified slightly since it was first introduced last year, and that there is now no longer a requirement for a referee to complete a serious injury report. When this process was first drafted, we had to fill in a serious injury report at the end of the game. That is now no longer the case. The only thing that you as the referee must satisfy is A, that the person has suffered the head injury, which we're about to be briefed on. The only other thing you have to do is at the end of the game get a hold of that team sheet that you cited before you ran onto the field and make a record BCI next to the player's name. That is all you have to do. Once you've filled in the team sheet with the letters BCI in big bold letters so that I can identify the player who's been blue carded, that ends your obligation. Okay, there are some off-field things that have to happen in the background. Alright, so the coaches and the managers of the team that's got the player that's been sent from the field under a blue card, they too must make sure that their player has been clearly identified. The other thing that coaches and managers should strongly do is recommend that their player seeks medical attention within 24 hours, and then the manager needs to submit the team sheet as normal to Bay of Plenty Rugby. And it just so happens that all team sheets go to Marie. Marie sits right beside me. The other thing that team coaches and managers must ensure they do is not only does the player have to follow the graduated return to play process, but they also have to obtain a medical certificate showing that they are cleared to return to play. They have to provide that medical certificate to the rugby union before they take the field, and if they are 19 or over, then they can return to play after 21 days. If they are under 19, they cannot return to play for 23 days, which by de facto is 4 games stand down, not 3. Now, players will incur a cost to obtain this medical certificate, and New Zealand Rugby will reimburse the Bay of Plenty Rugby Union for all costs that players are incurred. So when they produce their medical certificate to the Bay of Plenty Rugby on the Friday so they can play on the Saturday, they produce their receipt and it's reimbursed through direct debit. Okay, the player's got some obligations. Obviously, it's strongly recommended that they seek medical attention within 24 hours. They must obtain the medical certificate to resume playing, and they submit the medical certificate to the union to resume playing. Obviously, the rugby union has a role to play. I am the blue card administrator. I am running the register. I am keeping all the records. I will be the person who will send a letter to the club or the school reminding them of the need for the player to obtain the medical clearance. The letter that I will send will also have the full and complete process of what the player should do in order to get back out onto the field of play. And I'm also the one who will take responsibility for monitoring the player's return to play. Big issue. Okay, let me just summarise the administration stuff before we can get into the nitty-gritties. This initiative is evolving. So when it first came out, you had to do a serious injury report. Now you don't. There are some things that are being added. You'll see in the handout there's a whole lot of questions and answers. So as this presentation is run across the country, any curly questions get sent to Wellington. Some answers are compiled and our Q&A list is getting bigger and bigger. If you have any questions, can I ask you to please make sure you read all the documentation and check that question and answer list. If the question that you want to know isn't covered, then please send it to me. Remember, the overriding responsibility or the protocol here is player safety and welfare is paramount.